Hey, allow me to introduce myself if you don't know me, and allow me to reintroduce myself if you do. You may have seen me through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or some random recommended channel on YouTube. However, it is no accident that you are seeing me right now. So I have two very powerful questions to ask you before we move forward. And the first question is, if you're watching this, have you been questioning your core values and beliefs about life lately? And number two, is the uncertainty of life affecting your mental and your emotional well being? If you've answered yes to both of those questions, then I sincerely invite you to stick with me through this video because your search for clarity, inner healing, peace, and expanded states of consciousness ends right now. My full name is Joseff McKenneth Goodwin, also known as Joseph Inspiration. I am a certified spiritual life coach, a published author, a music artist, and a social media content creator. In this season of my life, I've made it an intentional purpose to share my life and my public platforms to assist individuals in conquering mental and emotional overwhelm and achieving absolute clarity in life. Our very existence on this planet is experiencing a shift in awareness and consciousness. Old conventional ways of doing things can no longer hold space for the things that we want because the things that many of us want are unconventional. Is it frustrating? Yes. Is it causing setbacks and delays? Yes. But there is a logical explanation around this. I want to share this. I enjoy happily ever after stories. Our mainstream movies, music, and novels usually over romanticize these stories, in which Mr. or Miss Right meets Mr. or Miss Right, sparks fly, and then they have a crisis that tears them apart, and then they ultimately come together and reconcile with a passionate embrace and kiss. These stories appeal to a part of me that yearns for romantic love. However, I am keenly aware that I could never be fully satisfied with romantic love because it's only a small piece of the love puzzle. And although the excitement and the infatuation is magical, it would not be the pinnacle of contentment. If that were the case, then romantic love would be considered unconditional love. And according to scriptural command, unconditional love is the pinnacle of contentment. And that can only come from God and God alone, or whoever you believe to be your spiritual power source. But to be completely honest, isn't it your faith that's in question here? The limits within your core beliefs and values that hinder your progress? What if your romantic preferences or your behavior patterns don't fit into the conventions of your faith? I grew up in a very strict evangelical Christian household. There were a lot of do's and don'ts, mostly don'ts. Anything that had nothing to do with Jesus Christ and the King James version of the Holy Bible was a sin. It was wrong and punishable. And the punishment was hellfire and brimstone. This affected the way that I saw the world, but also the world around me. My inquisitive mind had tons of questions about life, the church, its politics, my manhood, my sexuality, and my humanity. I never got any satisfying answers on any of those topics. So I suppressed a lot of my truest feelings and emotions. Just go along with the go along because that's the way things have always gone along. It is so important to know that we are all emotional beings and we were born to express feelings freely and openly. At some point along the way, though, the best logical option seems to be to suppress emotions, especially those that have been classified as sinful or wrong, just to fit in, win love, and be accepted. Your life, the way that it is right now, is no coincidence. It's simply the result of actions and decisions that you've made before. Those decisions are based on your inner beliefs that were taught to you and stored in your subconscious. When you change your inner beliefs, you change your inner world. But oftentimes, the trauma and the pain are buried so deep inside, you feel invisible, ashamed, angry, alone, confused, and unable to ask yourself sincerely what you really need and want, but feel that it's impossible to give yourself permission to receive any help if it showed up. You try to hide the pain of others and yourself, and for that, you start building up walls and wearing masks. The pain is buried so deep that those trapped, suppressed emotions start to surface. In my work as a certified life coach, I've helped so many people over the past year break the spell of those constricting and conflicting religious beliefs that have limited them from living their life with newfound clarity, joy, and confidence. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You feel alone in misery with lost emotions and negative feelings. Your past experiences have inflicted so many wounds, trembled your confidence, and left you with nothing. You don't feel the same anymore. And to some extent, you never really truly felt like you belonged. Not just that, isn't it becoming a huge challenge, a daily struggle, one that won't allow you to see anything past your so-called demons? The demons that possess your body, plague your mind, and crunch your emotions each time that you try to be optimistic? Don't you believe that you are worthy of living a confident, joy-filled life to which you are the sole architect? All these struggles lead to the crippling feeling of doubting yourself and the endless spiral of self-condemnation, with you asking, will I ever be able to break this cycle of self-sabotage? Now, before you start to go and judge yourself and go into victim mode, hear me clearly. Sometimes the emotions we feel indeed overwhelm us. There is fear, uncertainty, and most importantly, the feeling of being stuck. But there is yet still a way through this, a light at the end of the tunnel. You are not just here to overcome a bunch of difficulties or sacrifice your mental, your emotional, and your physical well-being for the sake of upholding the strict rules and regulations of society and your personal belief systems. I personally prayed and cried for some relief from the rules and the regulations and the belief system from my environment. An easeful one, though. They say be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. Not only was I able to physically leave that environment in peace, but nothing could prepare me for what was to happen in the years that followed. In 2013, I entered my first serious romantic relationship. Keep in mind, because of my strict religious environment growing up, I was forbidden from exploring this until after I was 21, and only if it was the purpose for legal marriage and producing offspring. I was 28 at the time, and I had marriage in mind. However, plot twist, it was a same-sex relationship. I had kept it private for the 2.5 tumultuous years that we were together, because that was also viewed as sinful and wrong. However, that relationship was a cocktail of extreme passion and excitement mixed with one of my biggest fears, becoming HIV positive. Yes, I contracted the virus through my ex-partner who was unaware that they had it until they got extremely ill. And it was revealed through blood tests how the virus had progressed to AIDS. This ripped open a scab of lies, deception, manipulation, unresolved psychological and emotional traumas. I felt like I was in a twilight zone. This relationship affected me on multiple levels, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Thankfully, I was able to end the relationship in 2016 without being physically scathed, but the mental and the emotional wounds were wide open. And soon after, I was diagnosed with severe panic and anxiety, spiraling into darkness with no one to hold on to, no one to soothe me, and no one to give me any satisfying answers to my deepest questions. I had lost a huge sense of my self-worth, my peace, my joy, my excitement for life, holding space for someone who didn't quite have a grasp on theirs. The darkness was engulfing me. I was having negative thoughts, thinking how bad of a sinner I was. The guilt, the worry, the shame was excruciating. But there is this one thing that hurts more than the religious baggage, and that's inner emotions and the negative story that you're telling yourself about them. And it fuels that imbalance between trauma and healing. And so the question now is, how do you get to a centered balance between the two? In my darkness, I started thinking about the afterlife, heaven and hell. What will happen if I die? Will I get free from all this mental and emotional trauma? What if I go to hell? Will I go to hell just even thinking of asking the question? Am I even good enough to think about heaven? It was blocking me from living my life. I honestly wanted to grasp the truth of my own being and be my own light. And when I surrendered to that intention, I had the biggest realization. I realized that I had had enough experience to support the idea that heaven and hell, paradise and purgatory, are merely earthly philosophies about life beyond the human experience. Because there are so many different stories and so many different accounts of this, these things can neither be proven nor disproven because life beyond the physical is not a humanized place. What we do here in this physical life will yield us physical results. It is the art and the process of cause and effect. Our eternal destination has nothing to do with this. And getting too caught up in the details of this takes you out of the eternal right now moment, which essentially keeps you in a perpetual state of mental and emotional overwhelm. When the focus is on this eternal right now moment, you get to observe with little or no judgment who, what, and how you are connecting with the world around you. From there, you get to see the next best logical step light up for you. You see, all of us are mirrors for each other. We are both the reflector and the reflection of each other. There's really no way around that. You can have a very clear intention set for yourself by yourself, but the moment that you make a very deep connection with another, it will either redefine what your intentions are or refine what's already clear. In other words, if you are triggered by something being reflected to you, that means that that something is consciously or subconsciously unresolved within you. And it took not only that dysfunctional relationship that I was in, my diagnosis, but also uncovering childhood traumas for me to see and experience that what was triggering me about all of this was my own unresolved inner triggers. And that was a hard truth for me to trust because the story I was telling myself was they are a narcissist and anyone like them is manipulative, controlling, irresponsible, argumentative, and always on edge. But subconsciously, I was those things as well. I was tolerating it. I was engaging it. And when I disengaged, that's when I got completely honest with myself about what I was truly feeling, took responsibility, and began my healing process for me. Healing is a very messy process. It is a very personal process. It is not linear at all, but with commitment and determination, it awakens important clarity to live a life of peace, joy, and sincere and sustainable happiness. Whatever pain, suffering, guilt, shame, regret, sorrow, or lie you fed into is simply a gateway, a portal, if you will, toward the greatest and the grandest wish for yourself. We settle for less than what we're worth because we do not feel safe enough in our own bodies to hold enough space for it. Safety is important because when you feel safe in your physical body, you can hold space for large amounts of love, peace, arousal, joy, and abundance. Fear, stress, worry, panic, and anxiety symptoms compromise the safety. And many times we distract ourselves with multiple relationships, social media, mindless and compulsive sex, drugs, alcohol, porn, or something as common as work, school, community service, or church. But you must sit with this pain and face the fear that you projected into it and go straight through it. When you allow yourself to face, reveal, feel, peel, and heal what's hurting you, you don't have to suffer in your darkness longer than it takes for you to find your way back to your light again. My life is now unrecognizable after committing to my own healing journey. Here's a quick recap of how I got to this point. I had been a professional music artist since 2012, and by 2019, my life was in a remarkably different place. mentally and emotionally. I had signed a one singles deal with RCA Inspiration that year, all while keeping my HIV diagnosis private from family, friends, colleagues. However, the pandemic of 2020 led me into mental, emotional, spiritual, and sexual health awareness and advocacy work that I had begun sharing on TikTok. As a result, my TikTok grew from a few hundred to over 100,000 followers in just a matter of weeks. I was encouraged by my followers to author a book and share more of my story. And as a result, I wrote and self published my very first novel, A Liberated Son, a novel inspired by true events. In the book, through fictionalized characters to protect privacy, I share the trauma of my HIV positive diagnosis for the first time, my family trauma, as well as relationships with friends, but most importantly, the relationship with myself and how I was able to reframe and refocus my perception of all of this. From there, I authored two more books, the second of which became a #1 Amazon new release in self-help short reads in its first week. Then I became a certified spiritual coach while continuing through TikTok and social media to share insights, expanding general awareness of the overall well being of the human condition. My life experiences did not happen to me, they happened for me to accept and to make peace with so that it can be the catalyst for someone else's peace and acceptance. This is the real happily ever after. So, dear peacemaker, when was the last time you felt a heightened sense of awareness, a state of deep inner peace, free from emotional baggage and residue? How mystical and amazing was that experience? But most importantly, have you been struggling to recapture and sustain that feeling again? Let me guess. No matter how hard you try, how much you pray, how many meditation techniques you practice, how many positive affirmations you recite, how many therapies you take, or how many books you read, you are unable to experience that magical, sincere, and sustainable inner peace. Then let me tell you this. Achieving sustainable inner peace is not only possible, it's your birthright. And it's simpler, easier, and quicker than you thought or were forced to believe. We like to set intentions and resolutions for the new year, but often when we set these things up, we tend to fall off after a couple of weeks. We can talk about how this year will be a year of clarity, a year of completion, breakthroughs, and a new and empowered you, but that can only start when you can make peace within yourself. And that happens when you're able to be vulnerable with yourself and your story, honest with the good, the bad, and the indifferent. Doing this allows you to be transparent with others. And believe it or not, it neutralizes those trust issues. It's the only way the breakthrough can occur and your peace can become more sustainable. And my intention for this YouTube channel is for it to be an empowered community for that peace, but also to dive deeper into sensitive and sometimes controversial subject matter with positive-minded curiosity, whether it be about my personal experiences or simply my insights on certain things. Either way it goes, the intent is for you to leave each of my videos feeling more empowered, more enlightened, and more inspired to keep healing every layer of your ever-growing, ever-evolving authenticity. Now, if you want insights from me that are more personalized, then I invite you to consider my 12-week coaching program. It's designed to get you to a place of mental and emotional wellness safely, reliably, and rapidly. I'll leave the link below in the description. But since you're watching this, go ahead and hit that bell notification to get notified for more of my videos. Like, subscribe, share, and comment below any of the thoughts that you're feeling right now. This is your season to transmute, to transform your negative feelings, your negative feeling thoughts, and those negative karmic cycles so that you can start seeing the world from a completely new perspective. One that will turn you into the limitless, powerful individual that you really are. The you you've been meaning to be all along. Your future self is rooting for you and cheering you on. You are safe, you are protected, and everything is working out for you. I will see you in the next video, but until then, I would love to hear your thoughts about everything you've heard here in the comments below. Let's expand this empowered community together.